evening and welcome to our August 14th school board meeting of the West Clermont School District. Mr. Romano, will you take roll?
Sure. Mrs. Delaney?
Present.
Mr. Chumley?
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Present.
Mr. Patton?
Present.
Mr. Rudy? Present. 5 present.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have none.
All right, we have no one to speak before the board?
No card.
Okay, awesome. All righty. We have our recognitions.
Sultan. We're gonna try.
You're gonna have to walk over here with them when you're finished.
All right.
Okay.
Can't do it last. Sorry.
We feel your pain.
Good evening. We have two partners that we're going to recognize tonight. Really important recognition, as well as partnership that we have built with both of these companies. The first one is Fairfax Credit Union. As you saw in the summertime, we saw some signs come down at the stadium, and we mentioned a new partnership with Fairfax Credit Union. So now the naming rights of the field is Fairfax Credit Union Field. You'll see the new signs are up. It looks awesome. We have had the best communication with Fairfax throughout this whole process. We're going to give recognition to James for getting in contact with Todd and his group, because it's been a really smooth transition into the new partnership. So this will take place over the next 5 years, so you'll see that, hopefully even longer, as we work with Fairfax, not only in the naming rights, but also with our WC Your Future and the events that we have, and our pie events, and all the different things that we do for our career-based learning students. So I think it's just a win-win. They're right around the corner from here, and so I think it's, bringing the community partner is amazing. So we want to recognize Fairfax Credit Union, our partnership with Todd Kane, who is the president and CEO. And we have a very heavy plaque, but again, it is something that we definitely want to acknowledge tonight. We're going to get a photo op with Mrs. Adams and with Todd. So thank you, Fairfax.
You're not kidding, that is it. Thank you. Yeah, no.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Todd, appreciate it. Like I said before, let me know when those interest rates go down. I really appreciate it.
Well, and we want to invite everybody to the football game this Friday night, because we'll be recognizing Fairfax.
Yes.
Will it be a pregame or halftime?
Pre-game, 20-yard line, 6:45, right before the game, and probably get something like a game ball and some other things in that. So you'll be able to decorate your office.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Appreciate it. The other partner that we want to recognize is Mercy Health. We've been with Mercy Health with our sports medicine since I've been here, and it's just been an amazing partnership that we do have with them. And they have all the services that they provide, and again, work a lot with our athletics. Partnership that we have, the cover schools, or the middle school and the high school, where we have sports, and all the things that they do for us, it's just unbelievable. And we've had a really good working relationship with Mercy. We meet with them quarterly. They're very, very involved with our WC Your Future and all the things that we do for our students. And I think that continuing this relationship obviously is a benefit for our students, number one, our parents, and our community. So we appreciate everything that they do for us in every category. They're going to be working with Dan, Wellness Champions as well. So this is really a district partnership that carries over to the best interests of our students, our parents, and our community. Tonight, we want to recognize them as we enter into another partnership for another 5 years with Mercy Health and all the things that they offer us. So we're excited to continue this. Tim Prestridge is here tonight, Mercy Clermont Hospital President. We want to thank you and recognize you tonight.
Tim has just been in his role these last 3 months, and so he's been very, very busy. And so we're very happy to have you with us. And you'll be seeing his face a lot. As Randy said, both of these partners go beyond giving us financial contributions to really help with our workforce programming with WC Your Future. And they're just a friendly face that you're going to see a lot around West Clermont. It's not just a one moment in time kind of partnership. We want to see that win-win, give and take, how we can support them and they can support us. So thank you guys very much. Have a great evening.
Alrighty, on to the superintendent's business.
In front of you is the personnel agenda for Monday, August 14, 2023. On the agenda today, we have the retirement of Katie Hauer. Katie has been with the district for 35 years and will be retiring January 1st of 2024. So we wish her well in her future endeavors. Also included on our agenda is the resignation of 5 teachers, 1 school counselor, 1 treasurer's office personnel, 1 computer technician, 2 custodians, 7 full-time paraprofessional aides, 2 part-time paraprofessional aides, and rescinding of an initial offered contract. Also on this agenda includes proposed hiring of 9 teachers, 1 school counselor, 1 custodian, 10 full-time paraprofessional aides, 7 part-time paraprofessional aides, a project management system specialist for secondary schools as a classified exempt position, 1 cafe worker. Also on this agenda is 1 part-time office assistant to the paraprofessional aide. Is the transfer from a part-time office assistant to a full-time paraprofessional aide and extended days for our school counselor. And as always, we encourage our staff to continue their education and learning at our local universities. And as they earn credit, they have the ability to move up on a pay scale. So we are bringing 9 teachers forward on movement on that pay scale starting the 23-24 school year. We also have on this agenda extended days that we had given to our new principal to work in June, a new assistant principal at Merwin to work in June and July of this past year. This agenda also includes supplemental contracts for building leadership teams, multiple extracurricular advisors, multiple building band and choir positions, multiple coaching positions, home tutors, and athletic contest workers. You're going to see on this agenda as well the proposed approval for multiple substitutes for next year. Ed Dyer for the OFCC facility support again as a sub, and multiple school volunteers and student teachers. Also on this agenda is the request to change approved FTEs by adding 1 paraprofessional aide at Summerside to help support our special needs students. And finally, work beyond the contract. A section of the proposed approval for payments to the Health Insurance Committee for both 22-23 and 23-24. Our 3rd grade Ohio State Test Administration, CPI training, Data Science Foundation course, the RISE program development, Data and Infrastructure System support, Gifted Intervention Specialist coordinators, course group teacher leaders, content teacher leaders, science course of study developers, and yearbook advisors. I respectfully request that you approve the personnel agenda as presented.
You heard the recommendation from the superintendent for personnel. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Rudy? Any discussion?
I say this every time, that I realize that teachers have the right to retire anytime they want to, but I do appreciate those that retire at the end of the school year. What is our plan to replace Mrs. Hauer mid-school year?
Okay, we were able to hire someone, additional staff member at the school to take over the courses that she would have taught for the year. So she's teaching a semester.
She's only teaching semester classes this
Yeah.
semester, and then anything that was a full year,
We have a new teacher teaching
We have a new
that.
teacher
So
teaching
she's not leaving, the feeling of leaving someone or leaving students, we accommodated for that.
and Mrs. Howard has a full schedule for the first semester that she's teaching, what, 7 or 8 bells?
I'd have to double
Wait.
check, but yeah, I'd have to double check with the, but I would say it's a full schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you follow up on that,
Yeah.
please? Thank you.
I'd just like to wish her luck. I worked with her for many years. I remember her first day being introduced to her.
Any other discussion? Mr. O'Malley?
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
5 yes.
All right. In front of you is a memorandum of understanding to add girls wrestling coaches at the middle and high school level. So back on November 1st of 2022, OHSAA made girls wrestling an officially sanctioned sport. This past year, we encouraged our girls to join the sport to see if we had enough to fill a team. James Collins said that we actually lettered 23 girls in wrestling this past year. And he said that we expect at least 30 coming out this year. So this memorandum will allow us then to put a girls coaches as sanctioned sports on our supplemental until we renegotiate. So I respectfully request that you approve the memorandum of understanding regarding the high school and middle school girls wrestling coaches as presented.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent, and can I have an emotion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Rudy, and a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Patton? Is there any discussion?
I do have a question regarding that. I'm sorry, it feels like I'm asking a lot of questions. Because we added a girls sanctioned team, are we still imbalanced with what we need to have for OHSAA? Or are we lopsided with having too many girls' opportunities and not enough boys? Do we know?
We're Title IX compliant, so yes.
We're tight on compliance?
Title IX
Title
compliant.
IX compliant, so we have to offer that position or opportunity for our girls. And so by doing that, we have to have a paid supplemental position, so then we're right in line with the OHS.
But I thought that for every girls' team, we had to have a boys' team.
Because we already have the boys' team, it
Already
balances
have the
out.
It balances now.
Boys wrestling.
Okay.
They had the opportunity, girls could be on the
Yeah.
boys' team
Yeah,
before,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why it's really just, it's kind of neutral.
Yeah.
I guess my question more directly is, we've always had not the same sport for both boys and girls. We've had football, and then we had volleyball, so that we had 1 for 1. With us adding another 1, are we still balanced?
We're compliant. I don't know if
Okay.
that answers, but I mean, we're compliant
Okay.
with what we have to have.
All right.
I don't think it's necessarily an OHSAA compliance as much as it is Title IX. That's more important.
We can follow up, because it just the nuance between the word balance and then compliant, just to make sure we're
Yeah.
hitting, it's yes and, we got both of those
Got it.
covered. Because I could sit here and say, yes, I feel confident that we're meeting the requirements, but I can't tell you that it's balanced. I
Gotcha.
feel good about that.
Gotcha.
So, we'll look into it.
Is there any other discussion? Mr.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
5 yes.
So we gave them a plaque already, but now you have the service agreement in front of you. It's a 5-year. I put that in the executive update, so you can see the specific language that's a part of this. It's a 5-year partnership with our sports medicine. It covers the middle school and high school, not elementary, because we don't have sports at elementary. Just to note that our parents have an opportunity to use their doctors as well. It's not mandatory in that service agreement, so that's questions that you'll get that, well, you have this partnership, do we have to use our doctors? Absolutely not. They're there for us, they're really good. We recommend them, but it's not mandatory. Part of the agreement, you'll see they'll continue, they've done this since I've been here. Their scholarship money, that is for our students. And typically, we take applications for that scholarship money of somebody that's going into the health field to help students when they do graduate. And there's additional dollars in there for the training room, above and beyond. And I think that with the service agreement, it's continued working with our own people, with Mercy Health as well. And it's been a very good partnership. Like I said before, we have quarterly meetings, we bring people in. They're also going to be working with Dan as well. So I provided with took us a little time to get to the final version of that, but so we got there, and then the dollar amount was in the contract or the service agreement for you guys to review as well. It's a significant increase from where we were before. So I would ask you to approve that.
Okay, for the recommendation of the superintendent for the sports medicine service agreement, can I ask for a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brinkman, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Chumley? Any discussion?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy,
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
5 yes.
And just to let you guys know, we meet with this group, it's not monthly, I don't know if it's quarterly, I don't know the rhythm exactly, but it's throughout the year multiple times where we're talking about the agreement, where we're talking about the relationship, so it's not like just a moment in this room and then we'll see them again in 5 years. We stay very connected to make sure that we're delivering and that they're delivering on our commitments, and so it's a very strong partnership.
They provide us with educational opportunities for our kids. We give them updates on our district and where we're at. So it is it's a two-way street. So it's a really good partnership. The next piece is facility rental is updated. I gave you the new process or the process that has been updated. And the first is fees. The fees have not been adjusted since 2017. But what I want to note is this, is we want our people to use our facilities. We want the community to have an opportunity to use the facilities, especially those organizations that our students are involved in. As you'll see, there's no charge for that live within the district, and those nonprofit organizations that, support our kids. And so we feel it's very important that we also looked at the different nonprofit out of district and come in lines with what the fees would be. I looked at probably 8 different school districts about our size, also in the area. We're not the most expensive in fees, but we're not the least expensive, so we're kind of in that middle. We talk about being in the middle a lot. That's kind of where we were at. I think facilities, when you think about it, our newest facility is 7 years old going in, and so we have updates and upgrades that we're going to need to do, and our facilities are used, and we want our community to use our facilities. We want to partner with our different businesses that are in our community, as well as outside our community, because it does provide a service for our kids. It really does, and we want to continue that. We've had great partnerships. So what you'll see is the new usage fees, the rentable space, and then the process. When I looked at this and looked at the process, it was an online process that's now moved back to paper and pencil or computer generated, and it also goes to the approval of the building principal for any rooms that are going to be inside their buildings. Athletic facilities go through our athletic directors, and then our auditorium will go through those that have supplemental positions for renting those facilities. So but those also go through the principal, so anything that's on their school grounds or in their property, they will have the ultimate approval before it comes to us. I think that's important. I think it's really important for our principals to know who's on campus, when they're on campus, and who's on campus. And so we put that back into the rental process. It's still online as far as getting the documents, but then they'll submit it either through email or they'll drop it off for the principal approval. So the way to think about it is principals take care of all the meeting rooms as far as classrooms, cafeteria. Athletics goes through James, both 7 through 12. And then, like I said, the auditoriums also go through those
is that we have been paid supplemental positions for that. I think that the process for now is moving in the right direction so that we can obviously cross-check. And then we get the bills out and we invoice, and that comes through Chuck's department as well. Kim McKinley will be the ones that will be sending the invoices out. So the other piece of the puzzle is with this process, we make sure that we have insurance, we make sure that we're covered, and make sure that we cover the district. So that is really just an administrative guideline. You don't need to vote on this. This is just for your information.
Any questions or comments?
Why did we go back to a paper process?
See, it was online, but there was no checks and balances. So we could, first year we want to do it's online to fill out the forms, but I still wanted to go through the principles. We probably will get to be able to do that and go through the principle for approval. But then in year one, I want them to get used to looking at everything that comes through the building.
'Cause I personally think that that's going to deter people from asking to volunteer because everyone is so busy, and if they have to print out a form, fill it out, scan it back into something, or hand deliver it to, whatever elementary school or middle school or high school, I think that's just my personal opinion. If I were that person, I would, because everything's online now.
Yeah.
But currently, isn't it coming in online straight to the district and then the
It's going
buildings
through
don't
FS
have any
Direct,
idea?
but it was not going through the principals.
Yeah. So they don't know who's on campus, what groups might be there.
And it was all through operations, and there's no checks and balances. And so if I were to go to ask a principal, who's in your building this weekend, and say, I don't know, I don't approve it, that's a problem. And so that's what we came in to fix. I lived it, so I kind of understand where we are with that.
Is there a way to have that form go directly to the principal online?
It can, they can email it to them, they just have to, like Michelle said, they'd have to scan it in, but we'll get,
I got you.
we'll have the technology to be able to do that.
Got it.
But anytime
In due
there's
time.
anytime there's change,
Mhm.
trying to make it a simple process for them.
We actually looked at a system that would allow for that and some of the other things that we're trying to do, like associating our asset inventory with our work order system for IT and maintenance and what have you, to allow business decisions. And one of the things it will do is field trips, and it will do facility rentals as well, but we did not have time to implement it this year. So we decided to hold, rather than try and do something in a hurry and rush it, to hold. And so, we'll be planning for next summer to come back with a proposal that will incorporate that workflow along with some other workflows that we can build out custom. I know Mrs. Preston had seen the system, as well as others, and so, it just came so later in the spring that we just felt that it would have been rushed.
Is FS Direct the tool that links to our heating and air conditioning system? So it's one of those, like, you have a tool that has a goal, which is to make sure that the lights are on, the heating and air is on. And then you have all these other tools that do all these other things, and they don't connect.
Yep.
And we fall into that all the time. So the goal is to get that all streamlined. I think there's no process flow is why. It's just like one direct link. So I do think it can be cleaned up and made electronic. We'll keep working on it. This is the story of our life and tools. It does one thing, but not everything that we want.
Yeah, pharmacy's the same way.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to move into the district goals and key actions conversation. When we were in this room in June, Ellie Preston stood up and shared where we were academically with our early data from State of Ohio assessments. And when we get that finalized and official, is it now mid-August? I know it's changed over the last couple of years. So it'll be somewhere between, I guess we are in mid-August.
Yeah.
So it'll be between now and like mid-September, where we will come back to you just to tighten those results that we shared with you related to our overall attendance, academics, and graduation performance, et cetera. So today what we'll do is take, based on that data that we analyzed in the summer and the gap analysis that we did, these are the actions that we believe are the next best steps for us to continue on our path to higher performance across our school system. So to begin, I'm going to start with a little video. you know, I'm always trying just to get us to think about the future, what's possible. This is not me promoting what we're gonna see on this show as this is it, and this is the only way you do things. It's just a way to kind of stimulate our thinking. I'm not trying to sell a product. Do I need to push something else, or is it?
Feels like the cliffhanger, it gets
I
us
know.
coming back for
Or maybe
more.
I won't stimulate any of your thinking.
You hyped it all
Maybe I
up.
won't, I know, or I won't.
What do you want me to do? Let's see here. Well, let me just take a look. Is it embedded in PowerPoint, I'm assuming? It may not have translated.
We might
Are
just
you on
move
the
on.
PDF version or on the?
It's the PowerPoint version, and it looks as though the video did not translate to the slide.
We'll just maybe move on. How about that? Okay, so we won't be stimulating your thinking, so let's go to the map. We've spent a lot of time looking at this map last year. I'm curious as a board, what about the visual is, oh wait, I hear something.
It's here, it's on ours.
Oh, it's on yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it embedded.
If you you know what, if you're gonna get on YouTube and just get that link, we could watch it while I'm talking to them about the map.
Did
So
you have
we'll
the link?
stall.
Let's just grab, let me see if the cable reads.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, because it's embedded in.
Ryan has it, he's ready.
When we go to the.
The Google slide.
When you think about this graphic, we think about the journey of a student, the journey that a student takes from the beginning of their time with us in West Clermont to that porch of a graduate destination where they're graduating, ready to enroll, enlist, employ, or be an entrepreneur. What about this graphic, or what about this conversation that we had last school year, to you is the most significant piece for West Clermont right now? Like, what is most important about this to you in our current moment? Just want to have some discussion about that. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I know you'll be great.
You want to do it?
We'll do this talk first, and then I'll play it. Yep. Thank you.
What's important for our,
What is just the most like of all the things, because it's very busy, you know, the Where's Waldo scene has a lot going on. What do you think is most significant or most important for us to be focused on right now, based on everything that you know? What stands out to you the most, and what's most significant for our future? And there is no like right or wrong answer here, so.
To me, looking at this, and if a parent or even a student had to look at it, I think they would close it. It's very confusing. We need to make it simple. Because our goal is to get them from one point to the end point and be successful. And if you have to, it's like driving around Clermont County.
It kind of is, right? So, Michelle, that's a great commercial for the work that Ellie will be doing this year, because that will be the goal. As the Citizens Advisory Commission works, it will be to identify that path. So it's like this and this and this and this equals this, versus, wow, there's a lot to consider, there's a lot going on, it's overwhelming. It will, through the strategic plan, it will say those key components and those pillars that we have to have in place. So that is kind of the next step. This being a little bit overwhelming is a bit on purpose at first. Because, yeah, where do you look? Do you look at the bottom right? Do you look at the top right, top left? Where does your eye go? That's kind of part of the feeling that we all have right now as we plan for the future, because it's not linear and simple, it's complex. So thank you for mentioning that. And Ellie, that gives you clear marching orders.
I know.
well, and
Taking
I-
notes.
Yes.
when I look at it, I see the car, like down here, and I think that that's like the starting point. And so when you look at that, you're like, the starting point at what level? Is it a kindergarten? Doesn't look like it. At what point is that starting?
Got it? Yep. And the symbol there, really, like when you look at the gauges on the car and you think about the different pieces, it's really about like where we are right now, like in this moment, what is our current reality? As we look ahead, what's true and real right now? And that's what that's really supposed to represent, not necessarily a grade level, although it could.
Yeah.
But it's about, you know, how are we doing with attendance? How are we doing with behavior? How are we doing with grades and performance on assessments? Like,
But
where
is there
are
something
we?
in that car that gives you the reality that that is today? Because when you look at a journey of a wolf, one might think the journey begins at kindergarten versus
Yep.
the journey today starts here.
Right. I don't think anything would tell you that for sure. I think that the actual exercise would kind of point you to
Got it.
that, but the graphic itself doesn't, no.
So when I look at this, the first thing that jumped to my mind is the building that needs repaired. And we have, you know, while we do have beautiful buildings, we still have buildings that need to be repaired. And again, in order to educate our kids and to get them ready for the future, we need to make sure that our buildings are ready to handle the children.
Yes.
And so that's, when I look at the roof, I instantly thought of Chuck, we gotta get our roofs fixed. So that's, you know, when I looked at this, that's what I,
Yeah, and that's, the facilities, that's kind of one of the conditions. In order to get that student from point A, whatever point A is, all the way to the end, we have to consider things like the facilities, like the learning, and that kind of is what's represented in the middle, and like the workforce, the challenges that we're having with workforce in today's age. Well, I just bring it back to our attention just to center us, because we will start the conversation again, or we'll continue the conversation with our community at Clough Pike. Our first town hall this year will be there. And that'll be the final destination for the Journey of a Wolf conversation. And today, we were able to meet with our entire staff. So we mixed staff, paraprofessionals and certified teachers and specialists and administrators, mixed up and had different schools meeting with different grade levels, different occupations throughout our system, and we had a kind of a version of the Journey of a Wolf. It wasn't exactly what we do for town hall, but it was more geared toward the educators who work within the system. And I happened to be in the room where Matt was. I'll call on him for a minute, but it was in such a great, engaging conversation, just the passion in the room, the energy in the room to talk about these things and to wrestle with what does it really mean to reach Portrait of a Graduate outcomes, and what's it really gonna take? What do we need to start doing? What do we have to stop doing? What do we have to leave behind? And then what's really strong that it's an essential piece, we can't stop doing it, or, you know, the floor will fall out from under us. And so our goal is to make sure that everybody in our community is part of this conversation, because it is overwhelming, and it is, it's personal. It kind of depends on like where you've been. If you're just showing up here, you have no idea about some of those stories about the past. You have no idea what we have today that we didn't have then. And so it's important just to kind of give context, orient people, and continue to build that case for change, and wanting people around the table to plan for the future. So that's kind of the symbol of this map for me at this time, and just something that we want to continue to wrestle with. Okay, now we can do a little video to stimulate our thinking for today. Maybe.
It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that as the world outside school changes faster and faster, the majority of American kids are not being. It's a tragedy that as the world outside school changes faster and faster, the majority of American kids are not being set up to succeed in the future that's coming. We're entering a world where there's not a lot of value on just kind of sitting there and doing what you're told. Increasingly, a computer could do that kind of stuff. We are eventually going to create a new model of education suited to the 21st century instead of the last half of the 19th century. This is going to happen. Max Ventilla, and I'm the founder and CEO of AltSchool. Working in Silicon Valley and being at Google and, living here, it's kind of impossible not to have it shape your worldview and to believe that a mission-driven technology company can have an incredible impact beneficially on the world. And being a parent of young kids, there's really nothing I can think of that is more important than their education that I can be working on. As an entrepreneur, you have that startup bug. You need to work on something that catches you, and this was the thing that caught me. There's this problem, which is that the model that we have for educating kids, it is a mass production model. It's a factory model. It doesn't provide an individualized experience to kind of anybody. Every 45 minutes, kids switch to a different subject, and they open a textbook and they read the next chapter, and at the end of the week, they take a quiz. That experience is teaching kids how to think like computers, and that's not going to be very valuable when these kids actually grow up to be adults. If you're trying to fundamentally transform the education experience, that is not something that you can just kind of whiteboard with a bunch of research and a bunch of smart people in a room somewhere. You have to learn what that model looks like. For us, that meant immediately, almost from starting the company, opening a school. And then we opened 3 more schools, and then we opened 3 more schools, and now we're opening 2 more schools that are focused on personalized education. Each child defines their own experience to learn in a way that feels natural, takes advantage of their curiosity, and that doesn't try and corral them to learn this thing right now in this way. And that's where technology plays a foundational role versus a superficial role. There are 2 tools that fundamentally enable personalization in our schools. One tool is called the portrait. So this is a representation of all the things that are important about each child that different people can add to for curating a day-to-day education experience that's going to meet them where they are. That maps to a second tool which we call the playlist, which is the kind of scaffold for each child's day. It's a to-do list and a calendar. It allows each child to decide, what order they do things, or they can decide what's on that playlist as they get older. It's allowing a child to have agency. None of us like being told what we need to do, when, where, how, with whom. There's nothing that's more demotivating than that. And if you're not motivated, you don't actually learn. There's no way to force a kid to learn. They have to actually go along with a certain experience. They have to actually think. What we see is incredibly promising out of the gates in the first 2 years. We're seeing much more than a year's worth of progress on kind of nationally normed tests. But as importantly, they're making progress on the social emotional pillars. Things like grit, ability to work with others, ability to manage your time, to set goals that are going to serve those kids critically when they enter a world that's going to demand those kind of characteristics from them. I mean, my daughter's going to have a different life because this is the kind of school that she went to. And I love this Bill Gates quote that humans tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. First year probably costs us $100,000 per student. The next year, it's like $60,000. The next year, it's like $35,000. This coming year, it's like $25,000. I think that when you get down to about $15,000 per student, now you're in the realm of the kind of median experience in lots of parts of America. There are lots of public school districts that spend way more than that on average. We're starting to say, okay, how do we take the platform that we use to support our own schools, and how do we expand that platform with partners? We're just starting to work with the first set of partners who would open schools which aren't run by us. It's on that path that eventually you get to what you want. A new ecosystem where all schools, existing schools and new schools, are able to take advantage of a kind of new way to educate kids for the future. There's literally a technology company, behind their school working tirelessly. That's the kind of 10-year future that we believe is possible. In general, a startup is hard. In general, a startup
So as I said, I'm not trying to sell a product today. I'm also not trying to make us a startup, because obviously we are not a startup. We are a school system with a tradition, with a rich history, and we have ways of doing things. But
It's a
this is
tragedy.
really meant just to help us think about like what the possibilities are and what are we gonna build that's gonna be best for West Clermont kids? Because that's what we have to be good at. We don't have to be good at copying what's happening somewhere or doing something that some other school district's doing. What we have to be good at is supporting our students and building what is needed for them. And that's why this engagement process is so important, because some people might watch that and say, you know what, I don't want my kid on a computer like that, or I don't want them spending so much time on a computer. Or you might have somebody see that and they see that they're playing with Play-Doh and they're making models, and you might say, find a parent who says, oh, I want my kid being able to do hands-on things like that and being able to touch it and play with it. And so I use this just as a way to get our thinking going. So do you guys have any reaction on what you saw, or anything just to get us started, or you just want to keep going? Just curious.
I thought it was a good video. The technology, that is the way of the world. I mean, everything we do is on the computers, and it is a reality.
Yeah, it is, it's a reality, but I think we also need to, like, find the balance, because I know I have someone that I'm very acquainted with, that their child goes to a surrounding school district, and she's a kindergartner this year, and her supply list didn't have pencils on it. I'm like, they're not gonna write? And then she's like, I just thought that was weird, and I'm like, well, she's gonna get a Chromebook. And
Yeah.
I like, they still have to, like, we still have to learn how to write. So like, we gotta find we gotta incorporate the newness into what we still need to learn to survive. I mean, we're all typing on computers or iPhones or whatever it is, but we still write every day to some extent.
Yeah, so what is that balance, what's right for us?
Yeah.
I think that'll be a lot of the work, that as Ellie takes her team, sometimes there will be some virtual trips, some trips will actually be going on location to see some of these school districts that might be a little further ahead than us, just to really say, like, how have you found balance, and what is best? So I think they're great questions to ask. And there isn't, as even the video mentioned, there isn't one way. If it was all figured out, we would just like follow that model. It's not figured out, so we have to create it based on the research and what we know is best. So as we move through this, I guess I can do it now. This presentation, or Dan will keep doing it.
No, she goes bring it in the board round. Try it,
Is it working now?
probably.
This is just to remind everybody of the board aspirational goals and key metrics that we are attached to in telling our story of the kinds of, the place we're trying to create, the types of students we're trying to develop, and the engagement and school pride that we want with our stakeholders. Just a reminder of our vision, mission, and values. We don't need to tell you that, but it's something that, we shared this with our new staff coming in. These are words we want everyone to commit to memory, to be able to say and to be able to live out. And I've shared this at a board retreat once, but I thought it was important to just define the word excellence. Enduring great organizations are characterized by a fundamental duality. On the one hand, they have a set of timeless core values and a core reason for being that remains constant over long periods, but on the other hand, they have a relentless drive for change and progress. And I feel like it perfectly describes like where we are. We want to hold to strong traditional values that have existed in this community for a long time. People are really drawn to on the rise that speaks to people. They're drawn to portrait of a graduate competencies. And at the same time, no, we can't stay doing what we've always done, that we have to change and progress. It's just a little bit scary sometimes. And so that's why we got to take some leaps of faith and do it together. So because why do we exist? We want all of our students to be able to walk across the stage with these core competencies so that they can create the lives they desire and to pursue happiness and joy, turn ideas into action, and to be courageous in the face of challenge, and to do what is right when no one is watching. We want that for every single student. And we know right now there are lots of students in our system that get these experiences, and there are also some that do not to the same level. And we want to make sure that we're equitable on those opportunities and meet kids where they are and take them to that next level. So what do we do? How do we get there? This is a new graphic that we just introduced to our staff. I shared it on Friday at convocation, and we talked about it a little bit today. The whole idea is to try to take this ambiguous term, student-centered deeper learning, or student-centered learning, or deeper learning, however you want to phrase it, and make it a little more practical so that teachers can feel like it's within reach for them. So the big idea here is that it's the kind of learning when you mix the skills and the mindsets of Portrait of a Graduate with the content in the classroom. So that's letting everybody know content is still king. It's still very, very important, and we want to make sure that kids are learning the core content knowledge, but at the same time, blending that with being the best human possible. Because just as the gentleman said in the video, to prepare them any other way is just to prepare them to be what a computer can be for us. And we've got to bring out the best in every human, which means those skills and mindsets that cultivate relationships and collaboration and problem solving, the big hairy problems of our time. So the Portrait into Practice helps connect together the things that need to happen in classrooms so that we can produce graduates who have hope for the future, who have a strong sense of belonging, and who are learners and leaders in our system. So how do we do this? We do it through our culture. And we all know that the definition for culture often is just how we do things around here. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the last couple months, and I'll be sharing more of that with you at the next board meeting about how our community is feeling about our culture, how our staff is feeling about our culture, and where we're doing really well, where we're winning, and where we have some areas to work. But we know that experience that each person has is personal. And whatever their story is their story, and we have to honor that. And it's our goal to have everybody have a good story, to have an experience that is very positive with the school district. So we want to focus on the academic progress that we want to see, having a clear purpose, having processes, just like the one we talked about today with FS Direct, and being able to book a room if you want to have an event here. We want things to be customer service friendly and simple and clear and seamless. And we want to make sure that the people are empowered, that they are equipped with the skills that they need, and then they're empowered in their work environment to solve problems and to make the learning experience great for kids. So it allows us to answer these questions. Do we know where we're going? Are the people with us? Are they aligned and are they engaged? Are we able to leverage anything within our system that will help us like leapfrog forward? And are we adapting and responding to what our learners need? We ask in the town hall, are we keeping up with the changes that are happening on the outside the walls of the school, inside the walls of the school? Is there a balance there? Or does it feel like two different worlds colliding? Now, this graphic here is overwhelming, and I'm not expecting for you to take it all in tonight, but all I want to represent is that these symbols on this page are what we've been building for the last several years. We've been investing in curriculum so that there is a cycle of change for, as you know, math came first. This year we'll be implementing science, and next year will be English language arts. And so it's a district-wide pre-K-12 investment that I think is already showing dividends and fruit from that labor, and is only going to continue to get better. It's an incredible effort that this board has supported us in doing. And the programming, the whole learner framework, the wraparound services we're able to provide for students, as well as the WC Your Future programming that offer opportunities beyond the walls of the school to give kids experiences that tap into their aspirations and their hopes and dreams. And then just getting more clear about what's the role of the leader, what's the role of the educator. So as time goes on, we'll be talking about every single piece of this graphic throughout this school board or school year. The most important thing is for you just to know that these are West Clermont created. This isn't something that we're just like taking from somewhere else and then inserting it into our system. We've been building and creating this to personalize it to West Clermont, so it's what our kids need, not just rinse, wash, and repeat from somewhere else. So we're very proud of this work and look forward to seeing it implemented inside of our classrooms. So what I'm going to bring you to here are just the key work that we're going to do in each of our strategic plan areas. So this is equip and engage every learner, and this is what we see happening this year. Eric will be leading up most of this work. It's about growing our multiple tiers of supports. We have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is what all students experience. Tier 2 is when kids need a little bit more, and that's usually anywhere from 10 to 15% of our population that need another layer of support or something extra. And then tier 3 is the most intensive. That's anywhere from 3 to 5% of our students. And so everybody gets tier 1, and if you need additional supports, you might get tier 1 plus tier 2 plus tier 3 as we wrap around you. So Eric, his goal, his main goal this year is to get all of the people working together. We've added a lot of resources into our system, getting everybody to working together effectively, efficiently, so that we can know our students very well and be able to show the data, be able to show evidence and information that we are able to knock down barriers, we're able to progress their academics, that they're coming to school more, that they're healthier, that they're happier and engaged. So that's the key work. Each building has a continuous improvement plan that is data-driven, that our principals monitor on a regular basis and then report out on a quarterly basis. And I'll share, I guess, the new roles this year that I think are most significant. What we heard loudly and clearly from our staff last year is that student behavior was their number one. It's still challenging them to have students come into the classroom who have a hard time regulating. Like, some can't sit in a chair, some can't attend to a task for longer than a hot minute. Some can't interact with other students without, an altercation developing. And so we've inserted a lot of support in this area. Notably is our top leader there in district office, Jen Taylor. She's a student behavior expert. She's been working in our district over the last several years, but just for I don't know how many days a year? 60 days a year. And so we have a relationship with her already, and her expertise has been tapped into, and now we're gonna be able to scale it and get all this going in a better way. We've had, through grant writing, we're adding therapists, so it's gonna be 6 total. Eric, if I say anything wrong, just correct me. 6 therapists inside of our system. I was on a webinar today and I learned that the recommended ratio of how many psychologists, therapists that you should have in your school is you should have 1 for every 500 students. So I know we're not quite meeting that ratio, but we have increased it greatly. And the BCBAs, they're behavior specialists, there's about 6 of them, and their goal is to get in and work with teams. By being able to increase that number this year, what's going to be, I think, a little bit different than what's happening last year is that they'll be able to be located in schools for longer. Last year we had a couple, but they were in high demand, so they were constantly moving around the schools. This will allow them to concentrate their efforts in 1 or 2 schools versus having to pop around so much. So I think that will help that phone a friend, we need help now, not on Tuesday when you're scheduled to be here, kind of help to be stronger. And the RBTs, those are paraprofessionals who have a certification that makes them qualified to be experts in behavior. It stands for a registered behavior technician. So we're growing the capacity of our paraprofessionals, and we're providing wraparound support for teachers for problem solving and capacity building. Additionally, our resource coordinators, we had 2 last year. Another name for resource coordinators is social workers. They've been able to help us remove barriers that keep kids from attending school and many, many other things. Last year we had 2. They were extremely busy from the minute they came into our district. This year we've been able to expand that to 4. And this is a partnership with our Jobs and Family Services. It's through TANF dollars, working with the Clermont County Commissioner. So there's a lot of people invested in this, and then the district pays a portion of it. So we all have kind of some teeth in this investment, but it's very, very affordable for a school district, and it truly has changed what we're able to do to serve students. So those will be the significant shifts this year as we continue to look at those ESSER funds that we've spent to figure out where are we seeing the most bang for our buck. Are all of these additional roles being utilized in the best way possible? Is there something missing? Is it the right match? Is it not the right match? We'll be looking at all of that this school year. And then finally, and Chuck will talk about this a little bit later, a big part of the whole learner framework is to continue to focus on safety. And so obviously that was a top priority last year and will continue to be so. We will put the Citizen Advisory Commission recommendations that they gave us last year, we're continuing to implement those, and Chuck will share some of those later. So are there questions about any of this or the roles that we have in our district or anything that you're hearing out there about this topic that you want to make sure that we're thinking about or attending to this year?
Natasha, I just want to
Yeah.
clarify, and I assume you're doing it, so just clarify, is that
Okay.
this is the conversations you're having with the principals, who's having it with our staff, this is our message that we're getting out to everyone.
Yeah, and in fact, I shared some of it on opening day. I met today with the classified staff to talk. I kind of gave them a preview of what I would be talking to you about tonight. And it's an ongoing conversation. I know we'll spend a lot of time on it September 1st when we're meeting with our building leadership teams, because the gaps that I would hear last year is that, okay, so you added these people, but how are they helping me? Some people feel that help, some feel disconnected from that help. And so the goal really is to tighten that. And that's really, it's the charge of the principals to figure out, how do I clearly communicate in my building, who all the players are in the neighborhood, and how you access their help and support when you need them, and how we are, monitoring along the way to say, okay, is this working, is this not working? Some schools are further along in that collaboration than others. And as I said, part of the hiccup or the biggest challenge last year was the movement of all the people. So now being able to kind of settle some people in, and because we've been able to ramp up the numbers, I think it'll feel a little more effective, because there's gonna be more consistency, more reliability on that. So that's just a challenge, like when you're trying something new that you have to overcome when you're sharing resources. So I think that'll make it better. Eric, is there anything else you would add?
I would say that a big piece of the work this year is marketing, so that everybody knows what's available and how to access it, as well as alignment. So the work that Jen is engaged in on the behavioral side, how are we all aligning that with the work we're doing on the mental health side as well? From prevention all the way up through peer intervention, how everything syncs together. And then lastly, how we're monitoring that progress and reporting that progress back to health, so that we know what impact we're actually having with the different pieces that we have in place. I think you did well to summarize that. But, a big piece, people need to know how to access what's available.
Yeah, and we learned through our data that we collected, and again, I'll be showing this to you at the next meeting, that there was a lot of partners that we have that our staff is not aware of, and that our families are not aware of. And so that's probably our biggest challenge, is connecting people to those resources. The resource coordinators are a key role in that. But as we build more partners and as more opportunities come available in our community, it's a matter of keeping up with all of it. And that's something that no matter what meeting I go to in Clermont County, that's our conversation. Everyone's trying to figure out, like, how do we have all these opportunities, how do we connect people to it? Because you would think it's just a matter of, like, okay, say the agency, say what they do, and then let them call them. Like, simple. But it's not, because there's sometimes with this agency, you have to meet certain criteria, or you have to meet, if it's this and this, this and this, you call here. If you have these two characteristics, you go here. And so it's nothing is so just black and white. It's nuanced, as I'm sure you're aware. That makes it just makes it a little more complicated. But I think having more people, and just having the fact that the people that were here with us last year are coming back, that stability, that consistency, I think will make a world of difference. Moving along, growing academic achievement and educational opportunity. It's really about putting our framework into place. And so the staff, I told them on Monday, like, you're not going to hear me stop talking about communication and collaboration. We cannot be an organization of isolationists. We can't be in silos. We have to be working together. And in some areas, we are very, very strong. In some areas, we've got some room to grow. And so this is a dedicated focus this school year. And the principals have selected new building leadership teams, and so I think they have a very strong leadership group wrapped around each of them. And I think they will be a catalyst to great things happening in West Clermont. I'm just sure of it, because they're kind of, in working with the principals, they're kind of linchpins in the organization. They will help us put the portrait into practice, which is all the tools that have been developed this summer to help make a student-centered classroom feel like not this just ambiguous word, but something that is approachable and something everyone is capable to begin. The guaranteed and viable curriculum is important. I've already mentioned that. And, I think I've mentioned this, but the technology department is working now under the leadership of the teaching and learning department. So we've really tightened up and gotten really good on the operational side of things and making sure that we have all the networking, the infrastructure, and all those pieces. Now what we want to do is improve that connection to the classroom and being able to look at things like ChatGPT or to look at new models of learning. Larry has lots of opportunity to look at AR or AI, AR, VR, all the different letters that exist in technology to see like what kinds of tools can be brought into classrooms. And sometimes we don't get that connection to like a classroom teacher. Would a classroom teacher want that? He learns about it. Do they want it? Will it work for our kids? you know, all those things need to be synced up. And so, and when we talk about data and assessment, as you know, Larry is kind of award-winning when it comes to the cybersecurity and keeping our kids and the data safe. That job is only going to get harder and harder and harder. And so we want to make sure there's a tight link between teaching and learning, data and information, and technology as we move forward and build the future classrooms. And so we've made a little organizational change with that. Any questions here about our moves going forward here? This is also just continuing the efforts. There's a lot of portrait ofs, and I know that can be overwhelming, but we work very closely with Battelle for Kids as our model to say you've got to have all these certain systems in place. If you're going to have a portrait of a graduate defined and as an aspirational vision, what does that mean the role of the educator needs to be? What does that mean the role of the leader needs to be? How do we all need to work together? And so this just shows we're going to continue to focus on that. We have clear definitions for portrait of an educator and for portrait of a leader, and we want to spend the year really investing in making sure that everybody understands what that looks like. David already this year aligned our interview questions and our interview process with portrait of an educator and portrait of a leader, so he was testing those things out so that we are attracting and bringing in the educators that want an environment like this, that is innovative and looking to have an educational model that's different. They're not looking for like how it was when they went to school. And so getting more and more clear about those expectations are helping us attract and find and develop people. Human capital system. I spent a lot of time at some national conferences this summer, and I'll tell you that the conversations that are happening in other states that are a little bit further ahead of us when it comes to staff retention really is kind of mind-blowing. So I'll give you some examples. There are a lot of states that are a couple of years ahead of us in this challenge with staffing, and things like the Grow Your Own program, that like with our Teacher Academy, is something that is alive and well in a lot of school systems, but they've taken it a little bit further. So an example, they're having the high school students then earn their paraprofessional license, they're getting their certifications so they can be paraprofessionals inside of the school. And then kind of the next phase of that is they're getting their associate's degree and coming back into the schools, working as paraprofessionals, working and going to school at the same time because of the collaboration that they're having with the university and school. So it seems like fading are the days where you go away to college to become a teacher and you learn from a classroom with a university professor, and states are leaning into learn by doing, learn on the job while you're being paid to work in the system at the same time you're learning from a university in partnership with the school district. So that's a totally different way of looking at how you grow your own, from not only turning our paraprofessionals into teachers, but turning our students into paraprofessionals who can become teachers. And so it's a whole system-wide way of looking at things. There are lots of other ideas. I won't go into all of them tonight, but just letting you know that it's been important for me to expand my network and find superintendents who've been in this challenge longer than us, who will have some ideas for us to help us to deal with this deficit. I know we've filled all of our positions at this point. Where are we?
A couple of our special ed, we've had to contract out with the ESC to get people to fill those positions.
Okay.
But still, like classified, we still have some to fill.
Okay,
But
so we're better off than we were
Yes.
at this time
Yes.
last year, but it's one of those things that we know it's not like you're gonna have a good year and a bad year. Like, you have to build your system for the future. And so it can't be something we just casually, kind of on a hope and a prayer, hope that people start showing up. The competition for our staff is incredible. People are grabbing them up like no other. And we want to make sure that we have the right kind of environment here, the opportunities here, that people don't want to look over the fence. Okay. And then finally, I'll just share one other piece on here, two other pieces. The Science Cornerstone experiences were something that the science teachers developed last year. This is a project or a learning opportunity that will happen across the entire board. So no longer will it be, well, you're just lucky that you go to Holly Hill. You're lucky that you go to Summerside and you have that teacher who does that cool project. Now across the board, how many is it? It's not every grade level, is it? Oh, in every grade level, there will be a consistent like science project that they will do. And there's still flexibility, so it's not so like cookie cutter and everybody's doing the exact same thing. It's a very problem-based, creative kind of process. But it'll be something that every kid will access in that grade level, not just based on the teacher that they have. And so that is huge. That is huge work that the teachers, they created them last year. This will be our first year to kind of test them out. And so we are really looking forward to being able to showcase some of them at our State of the Schools event. We want to move State of the Schools from just being something we do at a board meeting to an actual event where we can showcase our students and showcase work. And certainly the Science Fusion will have something very awesome for us to take a look at. But it's just so significant. This is showing that our system isn't educational lottery where you're lucky if you have this teacher, or you're lucky if you go to this school. You're getting a West Clermont experience that is personalized to you, but that there's some commonality in it that ensures that as you matriculate through the system, you've had practice and skills building those portrait of graduate competencies.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
So over the last 12 years, you've gone from seeing the disparities amongst the different buildings and wishing that these kids over here had the same opportunities, but then they had other opportunities that these kids over here didn't have. I love that we're making it consistent, that every fourth grader across the district will get the same education, if you will, the same opportunities. Thank you for that.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
It's really big work, and it could sound like we're talking out of two sides of our mouth, like personalize and be consistent, but it's truly, the kinds of experiences are very open-ended, so that they can kind of take it where they want to, but it's something that everybody gets to participate in. So yeah, we are very, very proud of that work. And then finally, I've mentioned this to you in the board updates, the Clermont County Workforce Collaborative. We are part of a pilot with just a few other schools. It's us, Batavia, Goshen, and Williamsburg, who is working with the Clermont County Chamber of Commerce, as well as Jesse Simmons from OKI and Supply Chain, as well as Chad Schaefer from Duke Energy. And the whole idea is to bring our workforce initiative under kind of a more consistent way of doing business across our entire county. It's very hard for when our workforce has challenges out there, but dealing with and navigating every school with their own way of talking about it, their own schedules, their own way of doing business can be very confusing. And so we want to align a lot of that. And our goal right now is within our first year to have 200 opportunities available as part of this pilot. That by January, our students will be participating in some kind of work placement or an apprenticeship that they'll be able to start in January, that they get experience and exposure to in these ways. First, through some lunch and learn kinds of opportunities. Second, through some field experience, whether it's a virtual field trip or they actually get to go there. Through building credentials around professionalism, as well as Lean Sigma and other credentials that are significant in Ohio, and then moving into that position by January. And so our big sponsor for this is going to be TQL, and we're going to kick off. Greg actually found me a date recently. We're going to kick off at parent-teacher night in the high school in September. I think it's the 21st. Don't quote me on that, but we'll make sure there's lots of communication. And we'll bring parents in, because what we found is there's two gaps in Clermont County that are significant gaps that we have to close if we're going to make this successful. One is parents' understanding of what the opportunities are out there. I mean, there are real opportunities where kids maybe participate in one of these opportunities and don't necessarily go to college right away, go into the workforce, and then get their college paid for. And where are those opportunities? How can this be activated? Who can help with this? That information gap is big. So we've got to work to close that gap. And also to continue the conversation of everyone doesn't have to go to college, but the likelihood of needing post-high school credentialing and certifications and a whole portfolio once you leave to show that you're a lifelong learner and you're continuing to upskill is essential in this new world that we're in. And so it isn't just be finished with high school and be done as a learner if you choose not to go to college. It's about being finished with high school, continuing your learning journey, and there's other ways to do it. So we want to make sure that parents are understanding that. It's not so cut and dry as it used to be. Also, the other gap that we have is transportation, and that's a problem across Clermont County. And so one of the initiatives here is to get sponsorships from the companies to provide transportation, to get that barrier cut down, get it out of the way. And so that's new territory for us to explore, but something that we are building in and baking into this process, because we can't just ignore it as a challenge. So anyway, lots going on there, more to follow. This, again, you're not gonna be able to read the slides, you've seen this before in the board updates. We've spent the year defining Portrait of a Graduate outcomes, so no longer is it just the terms, academic and life skills, or collaboration, communication. Now there are descriptors that go all the way down the page. And that should help teachers be able to wrap their brains around it a little better, to be able to see it happening and unfolding in their classrooms, as well as our students. And right now, the jargon, the words, the language is maybe a little too jargony for a first grader to access it. Maybe it's more like written for a high schooler. What the teachers will take now are take these words and then break them down into I can statements that make them kid friendly. So that's what they'll spend time doing this school year, to make it something that we move from just a boardroom conversation or something that we're talking about during professional development to a dinner table conversation. Because that's really when we know we've arrived, is that kids are talking about these experiences at home and they're showing evidence of their work. So I'm going to flash through these. I'm not going to read to you. This also helps when you think about social emotional learning. That word gets thrown around a lot. What does it really mean? This is what it means. These are the things that are important, the kinds of skills and knowledge and mindsets that we are trying to develop. It's not something out there. It's these things. This is what our community has told us is important. And in our surveying, and again, I'll share this with you at our next meeting, you'll see that our community is very, very, very much behind Portrait of a Graduate. They want to see kids having these experiences. They want to see kids demonstrating this. And the grade that they're giving us right now, like if they are giving us a grade A, B, C, D, F, they're saying right now we're about a C in kind of delivering on this. So it gives us a good sense of like where we are and where we need to take it. And then finally, this is probably some of the biggest work, because it's about optimizing our resources, aligning our partnerships, and planning for the future. So Dan will be talking a little bit more about this in his section tonight, but we're balancing 3 budget priorities. One is salary and benefits of our staff. We know that retention is a top priority of ours, and that salary and benefits have a direct connection there. So we'll be starting our interest-based bargaining training with our associations, starting here later in August, to begin that process of negotiations eventually. The upward and onward investment plan that we've been very blessed to have $14 million infused into the school system through the ESSER funds. This is our 3rd and final year of those funds. And we know that nothing that we've added to the system, like curriculum, like some of these positions that we were talking about earlier, are fluff and things that are really extra. They are core things that we've just had to go without, that we were able to put into the system. So we want to be able to hold on to as much of that as possible. And then the 3rd priority, I just call them other needs that are core needs that we haven't been able to meet. So for instance, we still only have 4 days of specials in the elementary, art, music, and PE, and Discover. We only have that 4 days a week. We'd like to see that 5. Another thing we haven't been able to get to yet, as you know, is middle school start time. We need to be able to push that back. And so these are just still some basic things that we know are important to the core of what we do that we haven't been able to afford yet. So it's going to be, as we go in the future, it's going to be balancing all 3 of those things. We're going to continue with our stakeholder engagement. The fall will be hugely about student voice. We'll be having student focus groups, student surveys, student town halls, as well as shadow a student days to really help build empathy. We'll have our staff shadow a student and see what is a day in the life of a student look like and how might we transform this experience. We will have, as I mentioned earlier, the town hall at Clough in September. That is about journey of a student. And then as soon as October, as soon as we turn the calendar over, we will begin our facilities conversation. And board, this will be probably the hardest part of our work next year, is to think about the future master plan on the school district. What do we want to do? We know we have some hot pockets of challenge. It's Merwin Elementary, Holly Hill Elementary, West Clermont Middle School, our preschools kind of overflowing at both Holly Hill and Willowville, and our growing specialized diverse learner population. As that population continues to grow and has needs, a room that was designed for 30 children is being used for maybe 5 or 8 or 12 kids. And so it's making us expand and use space faster than we ever would imagine that we needed to. And so we want to make that big future plan. So it's one thing to know we've got to build a plan and then and with our community and get some support behind that. That's one thing. The second thing, though, is leading up to that plan. Because as the years go by, before this plan happens, there's gonna be lots of things we need to do inside of the system. So for instance, as and David's gonna talk a little bit more about this later, but as our enrollment goes up, might that mean we need another modular somewhere else? Might Clough Pike be the next place, or Amelia Elementary? Is a modular the best move for us? Should we add on to Amelia? Is that the best investment? What happens with the Brantner property? What do we do there? And so there are like lots of questions to ask. Do we take the preschool that's now housed at Holly Hill and Willowville? Do we consider taking them out of those environments? That way, elementary could spread out a little bit more. We could shift the boundaries again and buy us some more time. Might that be something that we do? I share all these things not to get us all worked up tonight and say that we're doing any of those things, but it is what we have to talk about. Because it's one thing, as I said, to have a final plan. We've got to have the plan leading up to the final plan, because we're not going to sit still in concrete and not grow and change before that, whatever that thing is going to be, can come to life. So what's going to be the most effective, efficient, best use of everybody's taxpayer dollars that we can come up with? Because we are going to, in those buildings that I've mentioned, Holly Hill, Merwin, and West Clermont Middle School, you're starting to invest in a building that is maybe not going to give you the return on that investment. And so what do we really mean by that? What's that mean for our heating and our air conditioning, our boiler systems? What's that mean for our windows? Do we start replacing windows at Holly? Did you do that this summer? I can't remember. Did you replace windows at Holly Hill this summer? No, but it's something that needs to happen. Okay, so how many things do you replace and repair and fix before you say we need something different? And so there's just lots and lots and lots to talk about, and will be a heavy, heavy focus. A, it'll happen in board meetings. B, it'll happen as we do our town halls. It'll be in October, November, and January. And then the winter, as we get into winter and spring, focus groups and surveying and just kind of finding out where people are will continue. So hopefully that'll really engage people. That will bring a lot of people out to talk about the future, because brick and mortar is something everyone can wrap their brains around and can start to imagine. And then finally, you see we've got the impact teams working alongside of the CAC. Ellie has been charged to lead the Citizens Advisory Commission this year. We've got Ryan serving on that, as well as Jim working alongside of him. And the goal by the end of the year will be have a strategic plan that we can present to you that takes into account every challenge that we've talked about, our 5 challenges, the interests that our community has, what they would like to see happen, and then what we've been able to prioritize as a district. So we'll have you in and out of those conversations all year long as we have meetings just like this one. So a bit heavy. The slide is a bit heavy. But what we do note here, though, is that every decision kind of starts with facilities. Everything kind of goes back to, will we have space for our kids? So we got to figure this part out.
And the piece, just to chime in, again, not to hunker down here, but
That's
is to
okay.
remind the community that while we have a brand-new high school, we still have other buildings that are in need.
Yes.
And the West Clermont Middle School was the old Amelia High School Middle School that was converted. It was not rebuilt, it is not brand new. It has a new hallway connecting the two, and that's about the extent.
Yes.
So,
Well, you bring up a good point, Ryan, too. Our plan is to, before board meetings, as we move our board meetings around the district this year, to offer an opportunity for a tour. Because I think that's what's missing, is you drive by these beautiful buildings and you think, what in the world could this school district want for? When you drive by West Clermont High School, I mean, I still kind of pinch myself every time I drive up to that school and go inside. There are needs. There are even needs inside of the high school that we have to consider. So,
But it's almost like what you were alluding to with the new science, that they're gonna have a project, K-12, whatever, that every student is gonna get experience the same thing. Our students, students at one elementary school aren't having the same facility exposure as they are to someone who's in a newer school. And
It's inequitable. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is, and we can't pretend, like, we can't fake it. And yes, a building isn't everything, but it does promote a certain kind of way to learn and a certain way to connect with one another that are, I mean, even something, this is such a basic example, but as a principal at the high school, you can go, start on the floor 1 and you can go around a circle and you can visit every single classroom. There is no way you can do that at West Clermont Middle School. A principal cannot take a loop and see all the staff. I mean, there are dead ends and nooks and crannies. I always say, like, I need, like, breadcrumbs when I go there so that I don't get lost. Just being able to kind of manage and connect with each other. Our staff at the middle school, they don't even pass by each other sometimes because of how the configuration of the room sets up. And although that sounds like, okay, suck it up, everybody, it's a human thing. It's about human interaction and connection and feeling a part of something. And if you're in a hallway with 3 other people down a isolated place of the building, you start to feel isolated. So
Is that just in the 6th grade building, or is it?
it's
carry over
really
to
all
the
over.
17th?
It's really all over.
Yeah, like
It's-
the old Amelia High School has like the wings that had been like science edition, like a science wing edition, where you're like literally down a corridor that, you know, no one ever goes down unless you're like going down to it and it's a dead end. And, I mean, there's like literally, it's like a maze.
I
Yeah.
think was there a photo in the convocation slideshow? It was a drone, like a drone view of the middle school.
Yes.
I thought I was gonna fall out of my chair because we only see it at the street level. And I never realized how big that school really is, looking at it from above. And I don't think anybody else realizes it.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
like
the
a,
street-
it's like a double take for me, because you just look
Yeah.
at it, and it just goes and goes and goes, it's very spread out.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's, when you see it from above,
Yeah.
then people, I mean, and that's something I think we need to share
Yeah,
with our community and everyone, because, I mean, I mean, I had no,
yeah, so it just goes back to like design and purpose. This was designed for high schoolers. We have 11-year-olds walking into this space. Deer in the headlights, just feels so big, so massive from the, just the layout. It's not intuitive necessarily. So, obviously, that's not the whole reason why you would need a facilities, but it's just kind of part of the story, part of the kid's experience, so.
The roof was being fixed 10 years ago. I mean,
Have you ever seen the map of the roof? When you look at the, like on a piece of paper,
Part
you have
of
like
it.
15 different colors. And each color represents what year that portion of the roof was replaced.
Yeah,
And it literally looks like a maze.
it's patchwork, yeah,
It's
I've
patchwork.
been on top of the roof.
Yeah.
It is a mess.
yeah, yeah.
It's still, there's still two sections that need to be addressed for next year.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yeah, and we've been doing that since I've gotten here. I know it was happening well before. And that's another example of how much investment do you keep pouring into something that is not necessarily serving our purpose, and what makes the most sense going forward.
I can add something to Holly Hill with the windows. We thought that was our master plan for next year, start replacing windows. Well, 2 weeks ago, a window air conditioner literally fell out of a window. The window was rotten. So now that project just got moved up. We got a really favorable bid. We're gonna have to start replacing some windows on the backside of that building. It's
Because it
fixed.
becomes a safety issue.
Yeah, it's fixed now. I mean,
Yeah.
the winter air conditioner's back, but the point is, the windows are rotting. They won't even hold that weight, so.
Can you imagine if you were a student in that classroom and you went home for the day and your mother or father says, how was your day at school? What made it exciting? Well, the air conditioning unit fell out the window.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you don't want
and
that
the
to
window
be-
went with it.
Right. Yeah,
And then you got out the tape and they had a.
right, yeah.
No.
When I was traveling around taking some videos at the end of the year at Merlin, I walked into a room and everything was out of the cabinets. And I guess the day before, at the end of the day, the cabinets started coming off the wall. So kind of take everything out. Because it's
Yeah. So we want to make sure that, I remember a teacher asking me a couple of years ago, like, our social media makes us feel really good. Like, when are you going to tell the real story? And it's like, yeah, you don't get a billboard out to tell people of a problem that you have. Like, that's not why you get billboards. That's not why you do PR. But this is the year of continuing that conversation of the challenges. We want to always put our best foot forward in our publications and how we communicate and talk about the school district, because we have so much to be grateful for. This is not a poor us terrible moment. It's just we've made some great progress and we've got some more to go. And so let's figure out how we get there. So, all right. So David's going to hit some highlights from enrollment and staffing, because we know as we start the year, this is top of mind for everybody. So take it away, David.
All right. So just to continue the conversation Natasha was having with space, building to building requests are teachers that live, or parents that live within our district boundaries, wanting their children to go to another school other than where they currently live. Most of that is daycare, live with, or the grandparents take care of them for a variety of reasons. And so we try to accommodate that because of A, there are parents, and B, this also gives us a somewhat of a temporary release. I try to look at those specific grade levels or buildings that are overburdened and try to see if I can pull more out of there than come in. So we've used this to help us with that, but it's very temporary, and we want to keep our parents happy. So this year we had 336 building-to-building transfer requests, and we were able to make those all.
And this is something that happens on a yearly basis, and we don't add staff to make this happen. I mean, he literally is just manipulating the numbers, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And just a reminder, last year at this time, we were reminding everybody how we had to shut down open enrollment, where we were having people from other schools come in because of needing spaces for our own children.
All right, this next slide just gives you a quick picture of our kindergarten enrollment comparisons. We had 667 as of last Friday. Last year at this time we had 654. Our predicted number is 698, so we're within 95.6% of our predicted number. And if you look at the table far right, you can see Amelia, Clough, and Willowville are over predicted numbers. So we staffed for the predicted numbers. Kindergarten, it's really an educated guess. So we use our predicted numbers to see how many will come in, and we staff for that. So as you can see, our pockets are Amelia, Clough, and Willowville. Last year, it was Amelia and WT. So we talk about, okay, if they're in kindergarten, they're most likely going to come back for first, second, third, so that space is going to be an issue. We did not have to hire more teachers for those roles. We shifted teachers around. So for example, we held some teachers back, kindergarten new hires back, or positions back, and then shifted those rather than hiring new teachers.
Yep.
Our homeschooling numbers, as you can see, they've gone up the last couple of years. If you follow it across from right to left, you can see.
And
that,
those are
yeah.
end of year numbers except for our current number, right?
Right.
So that, like, you're not getting a total accurate comparison of like this school year's at this same time. That was for the total. So it's just where we are right now.
Last year at this time we were 149, so then we ended up with 486. Yeah. And then, staffing update. So we're reached the point where we're beginning the new school year, and the percentage of why staff are leaving, or certified staff are leaving, are on the side there. We're actually doing better now than we were this time last year. Last year we were at 15.4%. Now we're 12.2%. But you can look at the percent total of why they're leaving, and then compare it to last year's to start looking at, are there some pattern? Are there different patterns, or what can we surmise from this? Engagement is always something that we try to engage in daily. And if you look at, we do the Q12 engagement data collection response surveys. Staff recognition is going to be we're doing that, but we're going to do it on a grander scale this year, using engagement champions, and we're looking at retention, engagement, and desire to be here in wellness all feed into people staying, people liking their job and wanting to stay at their job. So the more that we can engage them in that, engage them in the learning, and engage them in the process of West Clermont, the more likely they're going to stay.
And I've asked Chuck to share just a few updates. As we come back to school, we know school safety for all parents as they trust us with their precious cargo. Getting on those buses and coming into our schools every day is vitally important. So we've made a lot of progress this summer, so Chuck will share. This is our safety guide from last year, just to remind everybody that nationally there are 10 essential actions to improve school safety, and we have been addressing items with every single bullet. That safety guide was built last year at this time, and it is still available on our website, especially for new families coming in or kindergarten parents to know like what's expected around safety in West Clermont. And then here's some of the highlights.
received the safety grant Mike Overby applied for and with the grant writer, and we did receive it in the spring. So there are a lot of things on there. I want to highlight 4 things that probably are the most impactful safety things we've done this year. One is the 3M screening with the windows. Every foyer and office glass that goes into the foyer has now had, they're finishing up this week, will have 3M screening over all the windows. You can't really see it. It adheres to the window and the window frame. So you can't shoot it out. You can't walk up there with an automatic rifle and blast it out and walk through it. You can shoot through it, but the glass will stay in place. It's not designed to stop someone, it's designed to slow them down, as officer understands completely. So there'll be more time for first responders to get there. So that was an ambitious program. It was costly, but it was paid for by the grant. We had to source some material, found a local company that did it, and they are finishing that up. In addition to that, the nice thing about it is you can still put graphics over it. You can put decals, you can put window perf over it, where you can't see in, but you can see out. So we're gonna do that in some buildings. But the 3M is a huge step for us in building safety. We will eventually do it, install it on other locations in the buildings, like the middle school that have those long corridors that lead almost to nothing. They lead to the woods, and it's just a plain glass window there. So those will be upgraded as well. The other major improvement were the planter ballasts in front of most schools. So they're designed to stop a truck. They are a concrete structure filled with concrete, gravel, and then dirt and a plant. The plants survive. I was worried about them this summer, but they're all healthy. That will stop, as I said, an F-150 truck from going. It'll push it aside. They won't go through those barriers. So that's a huge improvement. Third is we heard from Tom, superintendent at Princeton, when they had their swatting issue, they lost communications. The cell tower went down because of overcrowding. And he lost communication with his entire administrative team, as did the principals with each other, for 20 to 30 minutes. So, talking to local jurisdictions, they said that will happen here too. So what we've done, we were able to get radios that Peterman uses that will will talk across the entire district. So they are on a Peterman channel right now. What we're going to do is buy a repeater and an antenna, so we'll have a clear channel. We'll have one frequency. So every principal will have a radio. Randy will, I will, Natasha will, and obviously Peter. So that in the event the worst happens and the cell towers go down, we now have an effective communication with all the building principals and with the cabinet level. And then the police, we will be able to correspond or talk to the police because they can, I was told, they can access the frequency that we choose to get. So I think we solved a huge problem. I've never dreamed that could happen until I heard the Princeton presentation.
Chuck,
So I think we've adequately taken care of that.
you
Next
did
is fencing.
you did communicate with both dispatching centers because you have 2 different dispatching centers.
Yes, I think,
Okay.
I think in time we'll have that solved.
Okay.
I think. I'm pretty confident with it.
Okay.
Fencing was another glaring issue in our district. As the safety coordinator, the safety assessor, and the police that went through our district last winter identified that as probably number 2 in safety concerns. So I'm happy to say that as of this morning, Mark Hall and all of our fencing projects are finished. So we're in a much better place with our playgrounds. We're in a much better place with WT, which would prevent people walking on unannounced, walking onto the property near the playground. So a huge obstacle that was completed as a result of safety. And then third is the visitor signs. This sounds, I never thought of this, to be honest with you, until the safety consultant brought it up. Many of our buildings, most of our elementaries, did not have visitors parking. They had low emission vehicle parking and so on, but no visitors. So it was recommended by the state, every building should have visitor parking clearly marked, so that you there's signs directing people to the visitor spots, so that the SROs or the principals can look at those spots occasionally. Is there a car out there that doesn't belong? Is there a car out there that no one's in the building accounting, no one checked in on bill? That sort of thing. So all those signs are in place too. So thank goodness that we did the safety assessment last year, because they opened our eyes to a number of challenges that we had. And then with the funds from the safety grant, we were able to do some major things this summer for the district. The last thing is generators, it's on there. We found that all the buildings that had generators, Roger Thornburg inspects them and tests them, but never with an electric supply. Like, do they actually, because he couldn't do it. So we had those all assessed this summer, and they're all, what was wrong is fixed. So they all now, if the lights do go out, if a tornado strikes the building and the power goes out, the generators not only will they turn on, but they will generate enough power to power the building. So we're getting there. There's other things that are going to take place this winter, this fall and winter, and I'll give you updates on those as we go.
Thanks, Chuck.
Any questions or anything?
Great. Finally, I wanted to just get your feedback. We have our town halls, as I've mentioned, planned. We have our community events, which we're following the pattern that we did last year. We're going to have a fall event around homecoming. James is working to honor teams that are in the 50 years or more, celebrating their reunions. We haven't decided the exact topic yet of the winter event, but we're going to do something at a girls' varsity basketball game. And we have our partners event and State of the Schools. And as I said, we want to move that beyond the boardroom into a district-wide event to really celebrate the learning and everything great that's in West Clermont. The things that we want to talk about is, in terms of board meetings, we do plan on moving them around the district this school year. And the tours would probably be around 5:15 so that our meetings can start at 6. So my question to all of you is, do you want to come at 5 and have dinner ready for you there so that, like, logistically you can have that taken care of? Or do you want me to adjust the times of do you want to do the tour at 6 and adjust the meeting to 7? It's really up to what's going to work best for you guys, because we can, now would be a good time to make those changes. We're happy to do whatever. We know that could be a longer night, but we also think it's just important to take advantage of being at the building, being able to tour that building and get it all set up. But we don't want you to be, we know you have a life outside of being a board member. You're rushing from work and want to make sure we're taking care of those needs. So any thoughts about that? Do you want to keep these times or do you want to change the times? I'm thinking a tour would start at 5:15 if we keep it exactly as is. We would do a 5:15 to 6 tour. We'd start our board meeting at 6, have our work session, and then if we needed to, executive session afterwards. We could keep that, or we could change it to the board meeting starts or the tour would start at 6 and then the board meeting would start at 7. So what do you guys prefer?
Is our goal to have more of our parents and community members attend these sessions?
Yes, the hope is that, we're not wanting Clough families to come and tour Clough. We want Clough families to come and tour Merwin, to come to the high school, come to the middle school, see other things. And so we are going to be pushing some involvement from every school every time is our hope.
So my feedback would be that if you're gonna want us there at 5, we're gonna have to leave work 4:15, 4:30 because of all the traffic. I could not convince.
It's too early, yeah.
Well, and I worry about parents. I mean, because I'm flexible because I work at home. However, a parent that has to, leave work from somewhere, get to daycare or whoever, and then would want to come to one of our meetings to discuss whatever the topic is of the time. I think we're going to have low attendance for that as well.
Do you think a solution is starting at 6 to push it back and give a little more time or it could be 6:15 or whatever, but within that hour and then move our board meetings to 7?
That's my.
I think that's solid. Does that work? And then we could have some food there for you so that rushing around, especially with the traffic issues that we have, we could take care of that. and get right to it.
I would do a very light.
Yeah, something simple, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nothing big.
No Five Guys.
No.
We'll keep it simple.
Said light.
We'll keep you happy and we'll make it simple, but, and we'll have to kind of play around with those times a little bit, but I don't, what is very important to me is that we're clear to our community early on, because we're not trying to be silly, play games with anybody, like, we want people to be there.
Right.
So we want to be clear about the times and not be changing it all the time. So as consistent and routine as we can make it
Right.
is where we want to be, and we want to get this out well in advance, because we really would love to have people in the audience and part of the tours. We're gonna have student voice out there too, so we know that should, hopefully increase, like, parent participation, maybe coming to hear their students be a part of it, so,
But they often don't stay for the meeting.
no,
I mean, they're there to get us kicked off.
yeah. So we're hoping to try to alter that and change that this year as part of, because we feel like if the school is hosting their tour, that could maybe get some other stakeholders involved, so, we'll probably learn as we go. And we know, I mean, even just walking around West Clermont Middle School, you can't do it in 45 minutes. So we're gonna have to hit we'll do some consistent things at every building, and then we'll hit some hot spots that are vital to talk about. We
So
also
are you
have, oh,
thinking
sorry, go
about-
ahead.
Just a question about that.
Okay.
Are you thinking about, if you're gonna do, student voice at, let's say, Clough Pike, you're not gonna have the students from Clough Pike be there for their student voice?
Yeah, no, they would. I'm just
They
saying,
would.
we want,
Because
Clough
you get more
will
parents
represent
if you
Clough.
said Merwin's gonna give us, you know what I'm saying, so at least those parents.
Yeah, we're still, he does have it set up so that it's the kids of that school, because we want them to, like, help host and all that. But we want to find creative ways to incentivize other schools to come to these, to other schools. And so we're gonna attack it a couple different ways. Randy and I are gonna be meeting with the PTOs to help them understand the importance of not just coming to the meeting, like, for them to divide and conquer and be able to have representatives at each of them. Because it's important to get that cross-sharing. And that moment won't be the only opportunity. We are building some videos. Jeffrey and the team's working with our videographer so that we can showcase these online too. Because the big thing here is if you're walking around Clough, or if you're walking around Holly Hill or Merwin, you're not thinking too much about it unless you've just come from Summerside, and then you realize what is and is not true in those schools. And so it's just, or if you've just been at the middle school and then you come to the high school, like, that's when it really gets your attention. So we'll be showing some videos that help kind of tell that story as well. So very, very busy year planned, lots of collaboration and connection with our community, and some heavy topics to discuss. So thank you for that feedback. We'll make those adjustments. We'll work on that. That'll be what we do tomorrow, Randy, right? Okay, perfect. All right, moving right along. And finally, I guess you guys all got this in your mail. We are shifting our strategy a bit. We're gonna do less e-newsletters and more paper newsletters. So you got your first one this summer. It's called WC Connect Us. And it's really all about getting our schools and community better connected. We were just finding in our email database was not growing to the point where we really felt like we were reaching everybody. And so we were trying to reach the newspaper and through the online, and we just feel like we're not quite getting it. So that's why we're shifting the strategy. So it's an investment we are putting into our community. And I got good feedback from it the first time. It won't always be, it'll probably be 4 pages long is probably what it'll be. Our roadmap report, Volume 4, will be coming out next meeting. And as I said, we're gonna increase our use of video to try to really honor the age that we're in and get our messages out briefly, quickly, and efficiently. So we'll see. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to convey a lot in 30 seconds or 60. Any questions or comments? As that's all I have for you this evening. And I'll turn it over to Dan if you don't have anything else to share. Okay, thank you very much.
Take it away there. All right. So you know what I'm gonna do. Since we've been sitting for an hour and 40 minutes,
Oh my gosh.
just ask you to stand up for at least a minute. Just-
I love it.
That way the 4 things that I
You
have.
can stand and listen to you talk, actually.
Gummy bears or something that was going on.
Sorry, I
Just
haven't eaten all
saying.
day.
I won't make you do exercise.
I have pretzel sticks, I can do this.
Gotta get the old hip move.
I feel you.
So, there are, two action items, and then I'm gonna give a brief update on the, House Bill, 33. You can sit anytime you want, I just wanted you to stretch out just a little bit. So the first item of action is there are purpose and budget statements. Those are the budgets for the high school has a couple clubs that updated their budgets, and I believe it was Summerside updated one of theirs. And so frequently you'll get those updates. We'll have those probably every board meeting as things change and they go forward. So the requested action on item 5.01 is
Hey,
approval.
Jim just left the room.
What's that?
Jim just left.
Oh, did he?
So
Nope, he's
we
right
won't be
there.
able to take an action.
We'll wait.
Oh, ish. I thought he left the room, but it looks like he's. We were gonna vote on something. Are you available for that?
I can wait.
He thought we were gonna exercise, so he just did that. Jim thought we were exercising.
We're losing.
All right, time to sit back down, everybody.
No, that was enough.
Or we lose.
All right. So the request is to approve purpose and budget statements for 2023-24 as listed. There's some from the high school and one from Summerside Elementary, the principal's fund.
You've heard the recommendation of our treasurer. I will put that on the floor in the form of a motion for the purpose of budget statements and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Rudy? Any discussion? Mr. Renato?
So is Mr. Rudy seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
5 yes. And the second action item is, we did, as we recall, the July meeting was a little bit early. We did not have the June financials at that time. So the June financial statements are being presented this evening and request for approval of them. Those are the financial statements, bills paid, and the investments for June 30th, 2023. As presented there, we will have the July in the August 28th meeting. So recommended approval of those statements.
I would like to, you've heard the recommendation of our treasurer. I would like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Rudy, and a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Patton? Any discussion?
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
5 yes. And then just wanted to do a quick update on a couple items. Let me make sure this is right. And I did. And I'm gonna walk over there and get the clicker.
Oh, I can bring it to you.
So just want to briefly go over three things and then maybe get some ideas about moving forward. The first would be to review our ending balance of June 30th of '23. How did we end the year? And then talk about the biennium budget update that was approved June 30th, right at the midnight hour again. And what does that mean to the state? What's that mean to West Clermont? A quick update on the property valuation. So we have that triennial update this year for property values, and I think you've heard conversations about that, so I'll try and let you know where that stands and what are we doing moving forward. So as we ended last year, our last fiscal year, the total revenue sources, we had $95,944,000 that we received. We spent, we were within budget, we spent $90,251,000. That gave us an excess, i.e. revenues, greater than our expenses of almost $5.7 million. We started the year with $13 million, had that $5 million to it. We had an ending cash balance of $18.7 million. We had encumbrances or obligations at the end of June 30th of $1.7 million, which gave us an unencumbered balance of $17 million. And I'll skip to the bottom on this slide. If you recall, our 5-year forecast estimated a balance of $17.7 million, but that did not include the advances out. So when we go back and we add back money that we quote unquote lent to state and federal programs, because we have to spend that money, we have to spend money first and then go to the state and ask for reimbursement. So those quote unquote advances or loans to those state and federal programs was about 2.1 million. So our available cash going forward, okay, as we begin the 23-24 year was $19.1 million, okay? So we had a positive variance and that was there. I will tell you that positive variance was planned, okay? Because one of the things that, and I see Ellie smiling, she knows where I'm going. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we had, as the superintendent told you, this is the last year of our federal aid for the COVID relief, okay? Or quote-unquote ESSER money. Okay, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were planning ahead for and covering is the onward and upward positions that were in that federal funding, okay? So we basically had, and you saw it every month, okay, on the FTE listing, our full-time equivalents, our staffing, that there was 10 to 12 positions that were budgeted but not filled, okay? That's roughly that $1.4 million, okay? That was there. So we're planning ahead to make sure that those positions are being covered, okay? We did that last year, it's gonna happen again this year, okay? So to do that. So just wanted to give you the heads up on that. It's very intentional that that's being done, to do that, okay? The worst thing we wanted to do was have an upward and an onward program where we put things into play, okay, and then at the end of that federal funding, had to pull things back, had to pull back the arts and the music and all those specials, or had to pull back the coaches, okay? So we're planning ahead to do that. On the biennium budget, okay, which people refer to it, it's House Bill 33, but it's the biennium budget, okay? The state pumped a lot of money into the total budget, okay, $27.9 billion for FY24, $29.4 billion in FY25, okay? Our focus of that total is really going to be on K-12 education. We want to look at the Fair School Funding Plan and what that did for us, okay? So what happened during that bill, they kept the Fair School Funding Plan as the formula going forward. They continue to phase that in, okay? What they're doing in phasing it is they can't fully fund everything, okay, on that formula. So the phase-in is 50% of the amount in FY24, 66.7% in FY25. The belief is on the next biennium, it'll be 100%, okay? The big thing that they did, though, was update, is the next one down, is update the base cost. So there's certain components and variables in that formula, like a variable for teacher salaries, like a variable for administrative salaries. Okay, so all those variables are in there, and they could not be, those components couldn't be, when they started the formula, they couldn't be at current rates. They were actually at 2000, I believe, 18 or 19 estimates, okay, or averages. So they updated those to FY22 values. That was a significant add to the formula as they did that, okay? There's also in this estimate that was being done was updates of local capacity information. Okay, so the local capacity determines, okay, how much we have to pay locally of a cost per student. Okay, so the higher property values, the higher average income, the more the local school district funds of it, less from the state. The quote-unquote more economically disadvantaged the district is, the state's going to pay higher, okay? When those inputs were updated, okay, the state average on the funding mechanism went up to 8,241. Okay. It increased, it really doesn't apply to us, but basically said that the minimum state percentage that a district is going to get is still 5 to 10%. Okay, nobody's going to go without or hit zero. Okay, what was very important to us, and I highlighted it in yellow, okay, was that the guarantees that were built into Fair School Funding Formula were kept. Okay, there was a lot of conversation about if we're going to do 100% of the formula, that we have to phase out those guarantees. if they phased out the guarantee and we were a guaranteed district, there was a possibility that we could receive less than we did the year before. And I'll go back and tell you that that guarantee, where it says FY '21, for our school district, we're still under guarantee because FY '21 was equal to FY '19. Okay, so for us, we can say 21, but it was really 19, okay, to do it. And there were some increases for transportation to do that. At the state level, okay, it was a budget increase from 7.4 billion in FY '23 to almost 8.1 billion in FY '24. $660 million increase from FY '23 to '24, or 8.9%. It was a biennium 2-year budget, so the increase from '24 to '25, it went up to almost 8.3 billion. That increase was 221, or 2.67%, just under 3%. Okay, but remember that 8.9% from '23 to '24, that rolls over, right? That continues on. So it's just the increase from '24 to '25 with it. What did that mean to us? And I say this with a lot of caution, okay? And I'll explain what this is. So before the bill was passed, all the legislatures, governor wants to look at, well, what does this mean to school districts, okay? But really what they were doing is calculating what does it mean to the state, okay? Because they were voting on a state budget. So what's the impact to the state? I know that's hard to read, but I'll go through it, okay? So for our school district last year, from the state, we received the total, at the bottom says total state support. The column that says annual amount, $28.5 million. That's how much we received from the state for our state funding, okay? What I have boxed in red, okay, for last year, the formula transition supplement. That's another way of saying the guarantee, okay? The formula for West Clermont back this past year, okay, did not generate 28.5 million, which was the guarantee from 2021, okay? So they actually added in that line that says formula transition supplement. They said, okay, since the formula doesn't give you the total of 2021, we'll kick in an extra $1.6 million for you to get you to that level, okay? You get that, you understand that? Okay, so that's it. So the 28 is the formula plus 1.6 million, okay. 1.6 ensured that we would get what we got in 21. This is again for 23. One thing that's really important to remember, the calculation of this funding is based on a comparison of FY '21 funding, okay, based on the sum of the payments the district receives in '23. Okay, so that's all there. The calculation of the funding base is included in the foundation base. So this is the explanation of what they did for all the school districts, okay, as they went forward. Okay, the bottom bullet formula transition supplement is what we received in '21. Subtract off the fair school funding formula for '23. For us, that was a positive number, and so that drove the 1.6 million. What are their projections? And again, I'll say projections because it was simulation of what we are going to receive from the state this year. Okay? That projection came from the Legislative Services calculation for House Bill 33. Okay? It is projecting that we can get, or possibly get, an additional $1.6 million this school year. Okay? That's about a 5.8% increase in state funding. It's projecting then that 30 million, 30.2 million almost, that is going to be a decrease in FY '25, probably because of property value increases of our triennium. Okay, so for '24, for this fiscal year, they use the property values of '22. Okay, because the '23-24 year, we don't have the '23 values yet, but we have the '22 values. That's what they use for that. For the '24-25 years, they use the property values of calendar '23. That's going through reappraisal right now. As those go up, okay, the state's gonna pay less, we pay more locally. That's what it's saying, okay? So a decrease of 3.3%. Here's my word of caution on the whole thing, okay? And it's really the bottom bullet. I don't even need to read the top two to you, okay? The first four bullets basically say that this is an estimate. The last bullet says the primary purpose of those estimates is to determine a state total obligation. Highlighted in yellow there, changes between estimates and actual aid, what we're really going to receive, may be significant, especially for individual school districts. So that's the disclaimer that says, okay, you can kind of go by this, but you may not really get that total increase, okay? So I wanted to do this because the word's out there that, hey, we're going to get more money, okay? But there's a disclaimer saying, hey, don't take that for granted, okay? This is really a calculation for the whole state, not for you individually, and you may or may not get that, okay? And I want to be positive because it's great if we can get that, but where I'm skeptical is, in order for us to get that 1.6 million, okay, and there's two 1.6s there, but the increase in FY24, you first had to increase 1.6 million or get rid of the guarantee. It means we had to be on the formula, right? And then after being on the formula, we had to grow either student population wise or all those inputs, another 1.6. So from the formula calculation in fiscal 23 this past year, to get us an additional 1.6, that formula had to grow $3.3 million. That's where I get a little bit nervous if that was really happening or not, okay? I'm just giving you the honest estimate. I hope it's true. I hope we get it. I want to get it. I don't understand it yet, and we don't have the details, okay? We are not going to get those details till October. Okay, so we're kind of in this waiting period until the state comes and gives us their actual calculation, okay, not legislative services calculation or simulation, but when the State Department of Education takes all those components and puts it in there and tells us what we are going to get. Okay, so we're just a little bit cautious on what that all means. Okay, I hope they're correct, okay, but I'm a little bit cautious with it, okay, to go forward with it. And I'm letting you know this because this is all public information, so people are going to ask, did you get an increase from the state? Well, we're not sure. We think we're going to, that's what it says, but we don't know for sure, okay? Third thing I want to talk about was the real property reappraisal, the triennial update, okay? So there were two property tax House bills that went into play during the biennium discussions. There's House Bill 1, and then there was House Bill 187, which was property tax sales assessment ratio studies. Neither of those two got into the budget, okay? They basically they're still being considered, but they're just there, okay? The second one, House Bill 187, that is the one that basically was requesting a different sales assessment ratio for the reappraisal. Instead of using a 1-year average, use a 3-year average. That is pretty much what our county auditor was using too, by the way, okay? So you recall that there were numbers from 23% that was submitted, and I think 42 or 43% where the State Department of Taxation was pushing back, okay? So what do we know? We know that for the county auditor's office, that they did submit a few weeks back the property reappraisal to duplicate at 24% increase, okay? They're in a waiting pattern to hear back from the State Department of Taxation and their analysis of the sales within our school district, okay, or within the whole county, okay, of what that should be. I guess I would call it the pushback, okay? So, our estimate in the 5-year forecast was 23% increase, because at that time when we did the forecast in May, that's what the county auditor's office was telling us it was looking like, okay? So I'm relatively confident that our projection, the 23% is a good number, is a safe number, and it could be more, okay? The other thing, and that's the third bullet there, within the biennium bill, there was a provision for a joint committee on property tax reform. Okay? That report is due in, right now, 4 more months, December of '24. Okay? The focus of that really is on the property value increases and districts like ours that are at the 20 mil floor. There's no question that that's what that's really all about.
Is that
Okay.
report due this December or next?
I'm sorry, a year from now. So a year and 4 months, sorry about that. Okay, to do that. So that is coming. The situation though is, it is really targeting districts like us. The information that I got, that districts that are at or close to the 20 mil floor is about 50% of the districts in the state. Okay, so it is impacting, at least half the school district, depending on what happens. Okay, to do that. All right. So we talked about our balances, which were positive. We talked about state funding, which was told to be positive, but we're really unsure. Talked about the reappraisal, triennial reappraisal, which is positive and was already built into our forecast, okay? So what do we need to do? So right now, just stay the course on our budget and the forecast that we put in place. We will know more before we do the 5-year forecast in November, okay? We should know for sure what we're getting from the state. We should know for sure what the valuation increase is going to be, okay? And then we update our projections from there, okay, to do that. In between time, we analyze, the information that we get, okay? Third bullet point, what do we need to do? Participate in advocacy efforts, because there is going to be some property tax reform. When a committee like that is put forward, and people are going to come together and look at it, it's very unlikely that nothing is going to happen. Something's going to be done, okay? So we need to be advocates for our school district and what that means. And when I say advocates for our school district, I don't just mean about the money we get, but also about the people in our community and what they're paying, okay? It's not just about us. We are, i.e. the people in this community, okay? So we need to be concerned about all of that, okay? I quickly jumped on a subcommittee that is to provide input to the legislative committee on tax reform. And I think that's just a vehicle of getting everybody's message to that reform committee to do it. The superintendent talked about a spending plan through 2030, okay? The important part of that is, okay, the budget and the financial plan need to follow the strategic plan, right? So all the components that you heard about this evening, the budget needs to follow that. One of the important things we need to do, we have our sights set on facilities, we have our sights set on curriculum, we have our sights set on, a building that is for today's program and such. But at the same time, we talked about a little bit earlier about the enrollment growth, okay? So before we can do something with facilities, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? There's a period of time to get to facilities and to arrive at what you're going to do. We need to respond to that growth. So part of that plan, part of that 2030 plan, okay, from now until then, okay, is, well, what are we going to do? How do we have the classrooms for the students, okay? what are we gonna do to provide for the operating costs for those at the same time? So as we go forward, okay, the focus really needs to be on not just a current year budget, but what those needs are in a multi-year budget, whether it's 5 years or 6 or 7 years, but we really need to focus on that to do that, okay? So there's a couple parallel paths going on as we go forward, okay? But the financial really needs to follow the strategic on where we're going to. Okay, I want to do that kind of fast, but any questions on either of that, how we ended last year, the state funding, the local reappraisal, what we need to do? Okay.
Guiding us through this process.
That's,
We are very fortunate to have your knowledge to be able to navigate this craziness.
And I'm fortunate to have all those people sitting in front of me because it's about what they want and need and what they do every day, so that's good. And I'm also fortunate to have a board that supports all of that, so. Just a couple comments. It was great that we brought our wellness champions together last week for a training session. I keep hearing that we're pretty unique with the program that we have, so we're pretty proud of that. Mercy Health, which was recognized this evening, right out of the gate, and for the past, actually, since discussion started with Randy and Mike and myself, Lisa Sweeterman became part of our core team with the district that supports our wellness program. They even announced Friday in that meeting, some additional benefits at no cost that they're providing for our employees. So we'll talk more about those later, but they truly are additional benefits at no cost for the employees, which is good. On September 1st, we are having a wellness fair. That is a non-student day, a professional development day. It will be at the high school down Main Street, and we plan on having all of our wellness partners there. So not just the health, but on the financial side. So we're going to have a lot of tables there, and we are encouraging all the employees really to participate in that. I encourage the board, if they have time during the day, to stop in on that too. We will, on the next board meeting on the 28th, I did send to the board the health insurance rate renewals. Okay, we have those. It was nice to see that they were less, the projection or the actual renewal increase was less, about 1% less than what we projected in our 5-year forecast, so that's a positive note to make. And our dental actually decreased, so so that was a positive thing for us too. So, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Board comments. Mrs. Blair.
Two things. Since the man behind the curtain turned off my mic, I'm going to speak up. Must not have liked my question. That's okay, thank you. Two things. I just want to say that I'm excited about the start of another school year, all the great things that are happening within the buildings and on our fields. Hope that our staff has a great school year, and certainly the students take advantage of all of the opportunities available to them and have another terrific year as well. I wanted to acknowledge that I'm not seeking re-election of my seat that will expire at the end of December. And I wanted to acknowledge that Tammy Spencer is in the audience, and she's seeking to be elected to my seat. And if anybody wants to stick around and ask questions or talk to her, introduce yourselves, she's more than happy to field questions or just talk, chat. But we welcome her to the meeting tonight and thank her for joining us and learning more about the district. That's all.
Mr. Patton.
put this back in the middle here. So I have a couple things to say. I won't spend too much time, but one of the things I got to do July 25th through the 26th, myself and Mr. Dool, we got to go to the Safe School Summit that was done in Columbus. There was several things. It was actually packed. It was a 2-day event. It was packed full of great stuff. There was different breakout sessions that they did. But just to highlight a couple of things that I know, well, actually, we both attended because we spoke about it. But a couple of the things that we went to were the school threat assessment that was presented by Dr. Dewey Cornell. If you guys have ever had any presentations by Dr. Dewey Cornell, it was actually really cool to be able to see him actually in person versus over a computer screen. But he's just very knowledgeable in threat assessments. Threat assessments are something that schools are required to do. It's important, so we did get to see that. Some of the other things that I know I attended was the bullying prevention intervention, also the threat assessment and legal update. Obviously, I'm kind of a legal guy, so I like to listen to the updates, so I did get to attend that as well. We also I went to, and I believe Mr. Dool went to the Navigating the Unthinkable. It was a first responder perspective, and that was actually by the Sandy Hook law enforcement, who was actually one of the first officers on scene. So to hear him do that presentation was, for what the event was, it was interesting to listen to him tell and recant the story from his perspective. So again, that was interesting. Another one of the breakout sessions that I attended was the Ohio drug trends and how they affect adolescents. So again, we're starting to see those more and more in our schools, and we just need to make sure that we're taking steps to combat that. So like I said, I know that our school was represented at that. Mr. Dool was there, and I'm assuming he attended several breakout sessions as well. The only other piece that I would like to also talk about is that recently, the beginning of August, we had 3 national law enforcement national night outs. I know personally that there was, this is the part I always get when I'm up here on the stage. I want to make sure I'm thanking the right people and stuff. But I believe there was 3 people that I know that were there every night. The 2 from our intake, who was helping with registration,
Yes.
and one of our IT guys. He was there on standby in case there was any glitches or anything. And so, they were there, every one of them, and I truly appreciate that they took the time to attend those. They were very helpful. I think we had a great turnout on all 3 nights. There was a lot of people that were stopping by the tents, asking questions, getting literature about the start of the year. So I do appreciate that those individuals were there and able to answer any of the questions. So like I said, that was the sheriff's office had one, Pierce Township had theirs, and Union Township, and they each had them on a different night. And so like I said, I really appreciate everybody that was there and participating on those. And I too, to just kind of piggyback, I want to wish everyone a great start to the school year. It is here.
You know, it was really nice that the principals were there as well at the police night, so that the kids in the community that go to their schools, they were there to, kind of welcome them back to another school year, and it was also really nice.
It was actually at Pierce Township, there was a Merwin parent that was there, and so we were able to connect them with the Merwin principal. So yeah, you're absolutely correct, yeah. Mr. Reed?
I'm going to wish everyone a happy school year. I started my 40th today. I can't believe it still. I can remember being 22 years old and starting at Glen Estee. But I think it's going to be a great year. Glad to hear about all the great things going on here.
Mr. Chandler?
Yeah, I know we're all excited. Hope everyone's well rested and ready to start. I know I'm not. That being said, let's go get some sleep.
Thank you. Just everybody have a great start to the school year. I can't believe it's here already. I attended the staff convocation on Friday, and it was standing room only. It was amazing. And the energy was just popped. The staff from top to bottom is ready to go and just excited. And I have young children on my street that are starting school this year for the first time, and they're so excited. And I can't wait to share more of our safety updates, because I know several kindergarten families, and they're worried. You look at the news every day, but we're doing our part and doing the best of our ability, and we'll continue to keep West Clermont schools safe. I don't have anything else. We do have reason to go into executive session. Okay, good.
First vacation.
Let's see.
You know the day.
Yeah, we're required to go into executive session for the purpose of just the appointment, employment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation or investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official. May I have a motion to go into executive
So
session?
moved.
Mr. Rudy, and a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Patton? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Mr. Chumley? Yes. 5 yes.
All righty. Our next board meeting is on August the 28th, and we will be here,
Yes.
correct? All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Everybody have a good night and a first great week of school.
We don't start till September.